I'm Deborah DeBoer, Director of Professional Development here at NSBAR. Today I'm delighted to introduce a dear friend of mine, Kathleen Gallagher McIver. Kathleen is a successful realtor in the Orlando area who has extensive experience in residential and commercial real estate. She's been both a broker and a managing broker. When I met Kathleen many years ago, she had developed and was running a wildly successful relocation department with a focus on both corporate and bank-owned properties. Needless to say, she understands real estate. She's a longtime member and supporter of the Orlando Regional Realtors Association and a major investor in RPAC. Today, Kathleen will share some of her extensive knowledge of one of the hottest markets in the country with us. Welcome, my friend. I'm so glad to talk to you today.
You are in one of the hottest markets in the country, although all the markets in the country, Kathleen, are hot. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on in Orlando, in the Orlando area, about your market right now.
Besides crazy, we just put a house on the market at 4:30 yesterday afternoon, and we have 22 showings today. To give you an indication of what is going on, the inventory is down 61%. March of 2021 compared to March of 2020. And the median price is up 12%. The total sales is up 33%. I mean, and our current inventory is a 3-week supply. 3 weeks. Think that through. We are just eating up everything that comes on the market as fast as we can.
Have you been doing this for a while, or is it getting better or worse?
It's not getting better. I mean, the kind of the blessing and the curse of this whole thing with COVID was we absolutely came to a dead stop a year ago. When we shut down, everything shut down. And it was just a very eerie time. But then the minute that market started opening back up and we figured out how to show property within the CDC guidelines and, with masks and sanitizer and whatnot, it all started to come back. We actually did sell houses over Zoom calls quite a bit, which was another whole, we're realtors. We adapt and change to keep our business going. And that's what we did. But we also, once it got started and people saw how things were moving forward, it just started ticking back up, and it kept getting faster and faster and faster and faster. And towards the end of the year, it just took off like crazy. So we have definitely seen it speed up since we reopened.
Okay. Who's buying houses, Kathleen? I always think of Orlando as the area of surrounding Disney, so that it's in and out people. It's hard for me to realize that people really live there. And the truth of the matter is people really live there. So who's doing all the buying right now?
So the interesting thing is we had clients come out of New York City, coming out of 1,000 square foot apartment on the 44th floor, moved down here because they could work virtually anywhere or from anywhere. And they came down here and bought, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home and to raise their family. Usually people with small children to move to a different location and get out. I mean, there's been a lot of influx from all over the country to Central Florida that we've seen, but I mean, the whole state is being impacted that way too. And you're just seeing, it's just people are on the move, but they're just looking. The focus for outside living and outside spaces and outside, family time has become very important.
Investors coming into Florida. It sounds like people are not exactly investing. They're coming to live there.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, we still have investment, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But yes, you do have a lot of people moving into the area to live, which has been, it's just been a very interesting dynamic that we've seen. The investment, what we're seeing now is, yes, you have your traditional investors, your institutional investors and whatnot, and they're still active. But the one place we've seen huge investment has been in the short-term vacation rentals. And that has been a big change for that industry, because typically that's all international markets that buy a lot of that. And it's all American. A lot of it's American money that's investing in the short-term rentals.
Kathleen, explain what you mean by the short-term rentals.
Short-term rentals they're complete subdivisions that are rented out by the week or by the month, depending upon how you book that. It's kind of like a VBRO, the vacation by owner, the rental, VRBO, whatever. That and they're houses that are anywhere from 6 to 10 bedrooms, 7, 8, 9 bathrooms. And they are for multi-generational or multi-family people to come and rent a house, and they go to Disney and to the theme parks, and they golf and do whatever they want to do out of a single family home versus a hotel. And it has been, that industry here has gone completely wild, on fire. We had a client looking for one, and they couldn't get in because it was spring break. It was a perfect storm. Spring break, Easter, and Passover, all in the same, 2 to 3 week period. And you could not get into a single home, any of the homes, because once somebody's renting them, you can't show them. And we went into the new construction. The gentleman in this one particular new construction, he had sold 40 homes in 30 days, and the median price was between $500,000 and $750,000. And it's just incredible, the amount of people investing in these homes. But this is like the next generation, again, adapting and change. This is the next generation of how people are going to be vacationing post-COVID.
Well, let's change generations. You have had an enormous amount down in Florida of over 55 developments. How are those doing?
Same exact thing. Whether the big one, you've got your trilogy and some of the regular ones, but the newest one that has done very well is Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. They have a development down in Daytona Beach. And we actually had a client who just closed a house here in town because he built a house there, and he lives on Cheeseburger Drive.
Great.
I mean, you can't even make that up. It's like, that just makes you happy when you hear that, because that's just such a fun address.
Are you nervous about this crazy market?
I'm not. I'm nervous because it's, when is this going to end? Because we can't just have these prices just keep climbing the way they are, because then, and let me put this into a context for you. Walt Disney World, or the Disney company here in Orlando, is the largest employer with over 74,000 people. When they shut down, there was a lot of people unemployed. And it was very scary for those folks, because we didn't know where the end of the story was going to go. Now that they opened up in July of last year, and all these people have now been getting called back, so they're starting to see almost full employment again, as to where they were just bringing people on very slowly. Now that the parks are open and they're almost to full capacity, they're much higher now, not 100%. You're starting to see these people come back to work. But the scary thing is our prices are rising so fast. How do you sustain that, number one? And who's making the money to be able to afford that? So now we're starting to get into an affordable housing issue. And it's very, to me, that's a scarier thing, because you have to have housing for these people to work in all these jobs.
Kathleen, I know something about you because I haven't known you a long time. You, when you were much younger, worked at Walt Disney World.
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. Can you tell us what you did at Walt Disney World?
I made peanut brittle in the candy store there on Main Street and in the theme park. And then I also sold the Mickey Mouse helium balloons. And that was a fun job.
Since then, talk a little about the explosion that has happened around that. What has happened to the economy and housing because Disney was there. Talk a little bit about how the growth has happened.
Well, so like you said, you've known me a long time. When I was in high school, and Disney would actually send the characters to the high school to try and get kids to come drive out there to work because nobody lived out there. It was the middle of nowhere. And so they paid very well to bring the kids, for you to drive out there to go to work because there was not enough people to even employ to fill that park. So now you've just had this just tremendous growth out that way. You've got on the south side of Walt Disney, this is where you have all those short-term vacation rentals. It's 12 miles to the front gate of the Disney parks. So that's what drives that particular area. On the back side, the west side behind it, you have just enormous growth of a whole subdivision, and it's single family homes. There are some townhomes, but those are single family homes. I mean, those are residents moving into the area. So we have just seen just an enormous growth pattern on that whole far side. That's where there was vacant land. A lot of it was orange groves that are no longer, working groves because we've had the canker, the citrus canker that has destroyed some of the groves. So this is just a natural progression of the orange trees have died and they've moved on with what's the highest and best use of that land.
Okay. I also know that you've had quite a varied career. I met you when your dad owned the company and you were running all their relocation. Talk about how relocation has changed since then. And relocation was hot and heavy at that point. Talk about what's happened to it over time.
Well, it really has, I can't say it's disappeared, but it's not a driver of a marketplace anymore. When you had big employers, whether it was a Disney or a Martin Marietta or Lockheed Martin, what it is now, you don't have that same corporate package to move because they don't need to now. Travel is so much easier. Before COVID, it was you could travel and do a lot of that on the road and live pretty much where you needed to. Now it's people are doing everything virtual. And I don't know that we will go back to anything but doing a lot of this hybrid virtual, some meetings. I know that we're starting to see some events return to in-person events down at the convention center. That is something that because we have the Orange County Convention Center is enormous. It's one of the largest in the country, and they are now starting to go back to in-person events. So I think we're starting, with all of that happening with the technology, I think you're not going to see that corporate relocation is a necessity anymore, and the companies don't have to spend that money.
I think you're right, Kay. I think what we're going to end up seeing is people get to choose where they want to live now. And they're not going to be tied to their jobs where they have to choose. So It's going to make a difference it's going to change population areas because people are going to pick Orlando because you have really nice weather as opposed to, I'm just going to be mean to Minnesota, Minneapolis, where you can freeze all winter long, or Chicago too, where you can freeze all winter long. I think that there's going to be changes with that. I think realtors are going to have to learn to adapt to that's changing. Interesting what you said, the relocation companies, which were the hottest thing and the thing everyone wanted to have their hands on, and oh my gosh, there was so much money to make, kind of disappeared.
Right.
So changing markets with that. What else do you foresee that the market's going to change?
So one thing I do see, because I've gotten more involved with it more recently, is with your rental properties. They are equally as hot as far as your leasing and what's available, because again, they're looking for the same thing anybody else is. They're looking for more space, a different view, a yard, something, and what I do see, which is, again, it's a whole shift in how people are marketing properties. They're not necessarily going in the MLS. They're going straight to a Zillow and some of these other platforms to market their properties and renting them equally as fast. So you really, to find rental property is actually quite a challenge. If you have a client that needs something, I mean, they have to dig to find a house to rent, because again, and it's just like a for sale home. They are snapped up as quick as they come on the market.
Okay. I also know, because I worked with your association once before, and it was a cool association. You are a huge supporter of your association. Why? Tell us why you did that.
Well, I got involved. I was invited to be involved. I got involved. I sat on the board of directors. I was the chairman of the board in 2010 for the Orlando Regional Realtor Association. And it's kind of, once you get hooked into the being active, it's nice to, I mean, you see what the impact you can have on your fellow realtors in a good way, and helping them with education and being involved. One of the biggest thing is our state session just ended last Friday. One of the things we got involved with, there was a septic tank bill that was they were trying to put some language in that was not good for the consumer. And, when you really look at what we do for a living, we're the only voice that protects the consumer when it comes to certain issues, whether it's housing, mortgages, flood insurance, homeowners insurance. I mean, there's a lot of things that we lobby for, but that's for the good of all people. It's not just a realtor event. It's not just they say special interest, but what is our special interest? It's the consumer mostly. So you start to get involved with it, and then you get involved with policy, housing policy, affordable housing. I mean, it all ties together with what we do for a living, and it kind of makes you be interested in what is your destiny. If you don't speak up, who is going to do it for you?
If I was a brand new baby agent, which is not the case, a brand new baby agent, Kathleen, what would you tell them to do first?
That's where I default back onto the association, because of all the classes. We have a tremendous professional development committee, and the classes that they have, they've gone back from virtual to some in person to a hybrid, and they just offer so much that you don't have to be with any particular real estate company to get good training. You can get a lot of it from the association. And the other thing is there's a lot of, you've seen this whole development with teams, and they're always looking for people to work on these teams, which I think is a great way to get your foot in the door and to learn, because we all had to start somewhere. Mine was baptism of fire with my family. They just threw you out there and said, go figure it out. But that was a few years ago. Nowadays, you really have to have the background to become successful, and you have to stick with it. Statistics show us that if you don't stick with this for a couple of years, more than just 1 or 2 years, you have to get past that hump to be successful.
I was thinking, I often use you as an example, just to tell you that I still talk about you as an example. And I say, I have this friend, Kathleen. I think when she was 10 years old, her dad had her sticking signs in the yard, for sale signs in the yard. And that sometimes the things grow in family businesses that way. I knew your dad. I'm pretty sure he had you sticking signs in the yard. So I think that's good advice for them to get educated, get smart. I think also that the well, we have a lot of people coming into the industry now. My orientation classes have grown and grown and grown. And it's interesting to see who's coming in. They're younger. Some of them, I've gotten a handful, but still a handful, who are choosing this as their first career.
Yep.
And I'm seeing more of this is a profession we engage in rather than this is, oh, I didn't know what to do with myself, so I decided to be a realtor kind of. It's like those people can't survive anymore.
Correct.
People who are really going to do this have to do this now.
Yep. And you're also seeing, it's funny because our association has grown just multitudes. We're over 19,000, which is just, that's bigger than the last cycle we went through of growth in the early 2000s. So, I mean, this is the largest we have ever been in the history of our association. And you are definitely seeing younger. You're seeing, it's like they broke it up the last time I saw statistics on it. It's like a third, the age ranges.
Yes.
You have some of us that have been around for a while. Then you've got that middle group, and then you have a whole new group of the younger millennials, just that whole younger age range, that this is what they're choosing as their first career. And it's very interesting because I was blessed. I grew up in a family business. Baptism of fire. They don't have that same, you have to go learn all that. But the technology has changed so much in how this business is done.
What's the best technology you're using right now?
My cell phone.
Yeah.
I can't between the texting and group text with all my buyers and sellers with my business partner, and you can do everything on your phone. How do you live without your cell phone?
We had a luxury panel, and one of the panelists, and a couple of them were actually talking about how during the pandemic they sold houses through FaceTime. That's how they sold the houses. They were FaceTiming with clients.
And that's between Zoom and FaceTime. That's exactly what we did.
Yes.
And think about the leap of faith. They fly into town. We had a client from California, sold him a house off of FaceTime, and they had gone and signed the papers, and the first time they walked in that house, they already owned it.
That is a leap of faith, boy. It's hard to imagine if someone had said to us that was going to happen over and over again 2 years ago, we would have said no.
No. And by the way, they love the house. So we did good.
That's a really good thing. Kathleen, I want to congratulate you on being a $50,000, I don't know what we would call you. You're a golden, platinum investor in RPAC. I think it's really important. It's another facet of your business that you got involved with the association, that you contribute to the association. So I want to congratulate you on doing that. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So congratulations on that. And I want to thank you for being with me today. This was very fun.
This was very fun. It was good to see you.
I want to thank all of the viewers who have been faithfully watching and commenting on our EDUcasts. Bradley and I are going to take a breath for the summer and work on some new topics, some new interesting ideas, and great new information to share when we return in the fall. If you have any great thoughts you'd like us to explore, give me a call at 847-480-7177 or email me at Deborah@NSBAR. Don't forget that CE Zoom classes continue during the summer. Brokers, take your classes early and be ready to renew next year. If you don't receive the Sunday newsletter that details all of our classes, and we have some great electives scheduled for this summer, let us know and we'll make sure you receive it. Enjoy your summer.